Wellness for Life is brought to you by Back in Motion Physical Therapy, Gothenburg Chiropractic Clinic, Mahabi Atwa Community Action Partnership, Natural Alternatives, and Lakeside Sports and Pain Clinic.
Hi there, I'm Matt Koffenberg. I'm a physical therapist. I own Back in Motion Physical Therapy in Perham, Minnesota, as well as Park Rapids, Minnesota. For the last 2 episodes that I have recorded, I've been talking about a health screening that I do, a musculoskeletal screen that I do. You know, a lot of us, well, most of us should be going to our doctors regularly for an annual health exam. A piece that doesn't often get touched on those is just your musculoskeletal health. And there are lots of really simple tests that we can do to determine if you potentially could end up with some musculoskeletal problems. Like, we could do tests to see if you potentially could have some rotator cuff issues. We could do some tests to see if you eventually could have some plantar fasciitis. So there's a screen that I have developed, an assessment that I have developed that you're certainly welcome to come in, and we can walk you through that and determine if you have any potential risks for developing any sort of muscular aches and pains. A piece of that, or a slightly different aspect to that, is a running examination. You know, here in Minnesota, the snow is melting. A lot of people are now getting outside, walking, and starting to jog and do some running. And there's lots of injuries that can occur with runners. And so I have developed a running examination to determine if you need orthotics, to determine what type of shoe you need, because the type of shoe is really critical to make sure that you don't end up with running injuries. We also assess your muscle length, your muscle strength, again, to kind of give you an idea of what types of exercises you may need to do to prevent injury while you run. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my running exam. Obviously, I'm not going to go through every little piece, but I'm going to just talk to you about a couple of things that I would do during a running examination. So it involves just some strength assessments. It involves a foot assessment to see if you need an orthotic. And of course, the big part is actually videotaping you running. That piece we won't go into on this, but I do videotape people running. I videotape them from behind, from the side. We examine stride length. We examine what's happening with your foot. Is your heel and your arch, are they collapsing? Are they turning inward? Are they not turning at all? That running piece is huge to determine what type of shoe you need, potentially what type of orthotic you might need, or even if you need one at all. But strength is huge too. If you've watched any of my prior episodes, I've talked a lot about various conditions like plantar fasciitis, IT band syndrome. There's lots of shin splints is a huge one for runners. And there's lots of reasons why people develop those. And so we can do some examinations to determine if you have those issues that could potentially lead to like a shin splint. I certainly encourage you to go watch my shin splint episode, and it will really walk you through why someone might develop a shin splint. And I can look at that and do an examination and see if you're at risk for that. So one of those pieces is always what I've called the gluteus medius, or it's called the gluteus medius muscle. It's a huge muscle. It's really critical in terms of preventing injury for runners. So a gluteus medius assessment that we can do very quickly, you could actually do this one at home, but you stand with your side up against the wall. You want to put your feet together, and then you stand nice and tall, and then you would actually lean your whole body then into the wall. I should probably be a little bit further away from the wall, but you lean into the wall. You put your leg up against the wall, and then you push yourself away from the wall, and you stand upright. Now, the only thing that's touching the wall right now is my knee, and I'm just going to stand upright. And you should be able to do this very comfortably for about 60 seconds if you've got good gluteus medius strength. If you don't, you're going to start to lean off to one side, or your hip's going to start to ache. That would be an indication that your gluteus medius is a little bit weak if you start doing this, or if you start feeling some achiness. You should be able to do that for 60 seconds. Another piece that we do for a running assessment, we just put some tape down on the ground. We have someone stand on one leg. And then we assess how far out they can reach with their other leg. So I'm not going to reach as far as I can, but I'm going to reach out as far as I can without touching anything. And then I would be over here and I would assess how far that is. And I would measure that from here to my foot. And then I would do the other side, and I would compare the two. And both sides, the distance should be within 90% of one another. So I'm going to go forward. I'm going to test how far out I can go to the side as well as to the back. And I'm going to assess both sides. If they're not within 90% of one another, then there's some sort of weakness going on. There's some weakness in the leg or the stomach that we need to address. Another piece is we want to check the biomechanics of your foot. And to do that, we're going to have you come on over here. So another piece of our running examination is an examination of the biomechanics of your foot. So I would have you lie down on your stomach with your foot over the edge of the plinth, over the edge of the mat. And what I then do is I put your foot in a position called subtalar neutral, which is the position that our foot lands every time we're walking. When our foot hits the ground, it always will land in what's called subtalar neutral. So to get into subtalar neutral, I have to palpate a bone. It's called the talus, but it's a dome-shaped bone that sits inside that ankle. It's right in between the fibula and the tibia. There's the talus, a dome-shaped bone. And you can feel that bone on each side, and you just kind of wiggle the ankle around until you feel it equally on both fingers. Once I feel it equally on both fingers, so I feel the bone on my thumb, and then I feel it also on this finger. When I feel it equally on both sides, I then put a little bit, as if you're hitting the ground, a little bit of weight bearing. And now I know that this would be considered subtalar neutral. This would be the position that she is landing in. Now, I do draw a line on the heel bone to kind of tell me what position that heel is in. Now, she's really quite good. Her heel is, you really want that heel to be perpendicular to the surface you're landing on, and hers is really good. What I will see a lot of times when somebody's in subtalar neutral, I'm going to exaggerate this, but a lot of times you'll see this. And that is a position of inversion. And that's going to lead to some major problems. So if you land in subtalar neutral on the ground and your heel is turned inward, what that means is this side of the bone is pounding the pavement. This side is not. And so when you land, then this side has to quickly drop down to find the ground, and that puts a ton of stress on the plantar fascia, which sits right here. So the other piece that you're looking at in subtalar neutral is not only just the heel, you also want to look at what's happening at the forefoot. So this area is called the forefoot. So you want to see what's happening here. Again, she's really quite nice. You want it to be nice in line with the ground. A lot of times I will see this position in subtalar neutral, where again it's turned in more of an inverted position. And it's the same story. If this is the position that you land in, this side is far from the ground. Remember, the ground is right here. This side is far from the ground, so it's got to slam down really fast, and that's going to put a ton of stress on that plantar fascia, and you can end up with plantar fasciitis. So that's just a couple of really simple things that I do with this running assessment. If you're interested in the full running assessment, please give me a call at 218-346-2464. Thanks very much.
Thank you for watching Wellness for Life. Brought to you by Back in Motion Physical Therapy, Gothenburg Chiropractic Clinic, Mahabi Atwa Community Action Partnership, Natural Alternatives, and Lakeside Sports and Pain Clinic.